Chris and I chat about his newest upgrade.
We went through and redid all of the wiring. Now, we had to go through and separate the chassis from the coach. So this bus now just runs the 3 batteries on the chassis. You'll notice that the...
when he says chassis, he means the engine batteries.
Engine batteries. This box is in place, and that is a Boondocker 55 amp 4-stage charger for just the chassis batteries. Because I separated the house batteries and the chassis batteries, the inverters no longer charge the chassis batteries when the coach is not moving. This is now tied in so that when the generator kicks on or I'm plugged into shore power, this does it.
There you go.
This does it. These are coming out. So these are all going inside the coach.
Update on the separating the chassis with from the new lithium batteries and how Chris did it.
This is what every Bluebird owner needs. My recommendation would be to grab blueprints, go have them laminated, as I have, and use dry erase markers on these. This is the final version that Kevin and I came up with. We're on 5 versions of this, and this is showing us exactly, these are the shunts in the back of the bus. This is the alternator, this is the engine batteries, the house batteries, and this is the list of everything we came up with. So anyone from here on, and you'll notice number 25, it says, if no fire, have a drink, well done. Because this was probably 100 hours worth of work with Kevin and I back and forth over several weeks. And the only thing I did was messed up and had a wire wrong for the engine voltage. I switched it on the shunt, and it was all great the first time.
And those who don't own Bluebirds, most of the coaches were, the original owners were provided with a complete detailed set of blueprints.
Yeah, and they're gold, and they're right here, and these are all of them. And I don't know how you can have a bird without having these blueprints. They are used all the time. But what we do
and a big, huge magnifying glass.
And a big old magnifying
glass.
Like
Sherlock Holmes.
but you realize with these birds, you go through, and as you update, we all have our blue boxes. This is, we were working on the AquaHot earlier. This is my whole entire factory manual on the AquaHot. A lot of people don't have these. I do. I was intimidated to begin with because lithiums have a different charge profile than what the AGMs or the lead acid does. So got 2 different styles of batteries, but you have to be able to charge them both. What I did was went through, added the lithiums to supply all of the power to the house, and then you have your lead acid, which are going to be supplying all of the power to the chassis. Here's the problem. Bluebird combined a lot of it. So on a 95 wide body, 95s, 96s, 97s, even some of their earlier 93, 94 wide bodies, Bluebird tied a lot of things in for the house side that you would think would be on the chassis. So when you're running down the highway and your headlights are on, your dash lights are on, your running lights are on, your turn signals, guess what? That's all running off the house batteries, not the chassis batteries. There was a 4-aught line that went from the back of the bus to the front of the bus, and it runs along the frame rails and comes up by the generator. They combine one line to start the generator and to supply the 12 volt for the front. I'm on a 95. I don't have a separate alternator, and I don't have a separate battery for my generator. So short of buying a new alternator and putting a battery up there, I ran another 2-aught line all the way from the back of the bus all the way underneath in the bays, and you would never be able to tell it's not factory. It looks like it's dead on factory. Had a bore through all of the walls, and I brought it up to the front. So now my generator is isolated from my house batteries. It's totally on chassis batteries, and this entire bus is separated. And the reason I had to do that was because the generator and the dash all run through the same 4-aught wire. Well, the dash is on the lithium system. I can't use the lithium system to start the generator because I will destroy the batteries using the amps that it's pulling onto the lithiums. Now, caveat there, because I'm going to get a lot of people saying, well, I do it all the time. It doesn't mean it's right. You can get away with it, and yes, you can use it. There's a lot of Bluebird owners running down the road where they haven't completely separated their house from their chassis. They're not going to get the life out of their lithiums that they ultimately should.
Most manufacturers have specific warnings.
Yes.
Do not use the starter and try to start motors off of engines.
Yes. So here's the problem that you run into with separation of lithium in house. My alternator right now is only charging my chassis batteries. It is separated from the house batteries. Before the separation, the alternator charged all 3 starter batteries, all 6 house batteries. The starter batteries are lead acid batteries, so what they're going to pull maybe a 14 volt coming off of the alternator, 14.1 volt. The lithium batteries can take up to 14.6 volts, but if you know how lithiums are designed, lithium batteries could be 85-90% charged, but to the alternator they look like they're dead empty. So the alternator is given everything it can to the lithiums, and it's going to burn the alternator out. You're going to fry the alternator. So that's why they have DC to DC converters, so you can take the power from the alternator, it charges the chassis batteries at 14 volts, and then it converts it, and then it jumps it up to 14.6 to do the house batteries. Van and I have decided not to do that. We are using solar to do that. So our solar will charge our house batteries when we're going down the road. This is what every Bluebird owner needs, and so the system is now completely separated. The downside to this, the downside is I had to add a 4-stage charger. You can use an Iota or a Boondocker to charge my coach batteries for the chassis when the rig is parked. If it's parked in long-term storage, or if I am out here boondocking like I am here for Quartzsite, every time I'm starting my generator, I'm pulling power from the chassis batteries. So if I'm not running my engine with the alternator going all the time, I'm not charging that back up. So I have a 4-stage charger that is hooked into an outlet that's controlled underneath the, it says block heater, but that does my charger. I flip that up. Right now it's charging the chassis batteries. It's giving it 55 amps and it's charging them up, and everything's perfect. I go to start my generator, I go to start the coach, everything's good. I hear people say, well, what happens if I drain down my house batteries or my starter batteries? I can't hit my combiner switch. I didn't touch on this in the earlier video. My combiner switch is gone from back there. It's all gone. I don't want any of it anymore. And so there's still a way of doing that. You can do a 2 battery system into one, where you can click it, and I'm not going to start off my lithiums, but what I am going to do is I'm going to click that if my starter batteries are dead. I'm going to wait 45 minutes, an hour, because all of that power from the lithiums is now draining over into the lead acid side, and boom, guess what? I got enough to do. I safely hit that disconnect, shut them off so they're no longer connected, and I start my bus. It's as simple as that. It was so overwhelming in the beginning, and really it's not. I don't know.
And a lot of people worry, and they put all kinds of special things in, like DC to DC converters, because they're combining the engine alternator with lithiums, or they're trying to.
This was a community project with Van helping, and my buddy Kevin. And Bob. This is all lithium, and I'll get into some of these specifics. Those are 230 amp hour. There's 4 of them. They're made by Li-Time. Li-Time will allow you to do 4 batteries per pack in parallel. And then if you want to do more, you got to separate them. And so similar to Van, I'm using Victron MPPT charge controller, and the Lynx power in.
There's the shunt. And
there's the shunt, and then right above that shunt is what Van was talking about, the Magnum shunt. We're running them both in parallel.
And and that's the BMK basically transmitter.
And so when that is I don't want to say perfectly balanced, because I'll get somebody out there that will call me on it, but that is a pretty balanced system. They have the marine grade battery fuses on the end of each battery, so each battery is protected. And so we're still covering the system with a big mega fuse up top.
If the BMS in one of the 4 batteries decides it's going to fail, or it wants to have all the power go to it, it will suck all the power out of the other 3 batteries, and you can imagine what the result would be. And that's the only reason for those fuses. They're not for output, they're to protect the individual batteries from a failure of one of the other batteries.
And I waited a little bit longer. Li-Time had not come up with a low temp sensor. With me being from Colorado, I wanted to make sure that I had the low temp. So basically these batteries will shut themselves down below freezing for charging only. People think you can't use lithiums in cold weather. You can, you just can't charge them. Now, that is one of the other reasons these batteries are inside. I can be running down the road, I can have the generator on, I can be charging these, and the heat from the engine keeps this warm back here.
Yes.
These batteries never get cold.
Right.
It's kind of hard to tell, but they're also built up on a platform, so they have an air chamber underneath them, so that it allows them to keep cool. They're raised about an inch and a half.
Right, right.
So-
and then you used the same one I did with the 250-100.
Yep.
And it's not because we have that much demand. Could be because how you're gonna wire the panels.
So I'm wiring my panels in series, and I actually do pretty
Yes.
much come to maxing that thing out. I've got 2 more panels that will go up that are 250 watts each, and then it will need a secondary smaller charge controller
Right.
at a fraction of the cost of
I
that
use
one.
5 house panels, and they're 285 or 90s. And if you do those 5 in series,
Yep.
each one of those is around 35 volts. So you're around 175 or 80-ish.
So mine are 420 watts.
You got the big panels.
Yes, and there are, I believe they're 48 volts per panel. I told you I'll be bringing the inverters in here. The inverter is going to produce some heat. I know that.
Yeah.
So I have 2 options. I think I'm going to put a MaxxAir 7500 in the ceiling. The Serbo GX
Yeah.
has 2 built-in relays. You can set them for temperature, whatever you want. So that MaxxAir will kick on and off
Yeah.
automatically whenever I want it. So then people have said, okay, where are you going to get your fresh air from? I'm going to cut a panel in right up here.
Yeah.
So it's going to dissipate the heat,
Yep.
but it's also going to allow me to get fresh air. But then I'm going to put 2 vents down here, circle vents, and I'm going to put CPU fans on the backside to push heat in here. So in the wintertime,
yeah.
I can flip directions depending on which way I want. It'll either supply the cool air, pushing it in
Yeah.
for the MaxxAir, or it will push the hot
Well,
air
you have
out.
a lot more heat to worry about, but on mine with the inverter in the closet back, kind of like this, I took the closet doors
Oh.
and I just spaced them out about an inch.
Oh, so that's a good idea.
And the air comes up, goes
that's a
in,
great
comes
idea.
out the top.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if that would work in this situation.
So that was part of my motivation for building the new insulation panels for the upper part of the engine bay, and then below the carpet there, I also built insulation panels all the way down here. So that rigid foam board with the foil
Right.
is right below this.
Nice.
And so it is so quiet.
Yeah.
It doesn't preheat my bed like it used to, but you know, it's not going to catch me on fire.
Yeah.
Each lithium manufacturer is going to give you a set of standards for their battery, and so I'm shooting from the hip, but I think our Magnum chargers were 120 amps each. I could look it up. It's not important. I actually have mine dialed back a little bit, so I put in about 150 amps every time I fire up the generator. But still, even at that, I'm draining these batteries down maybe 200 amps, 300 amps a day, if that.
Right.
I could start my generator for 2 hours and they're right back up to where they want to be.
Now, one of the things that I've had problems with is when the coach is plugged in storage, the profile, if I have it all set normally, like I'm on the road, well, the solar system is going to take care of the charging on the road, but I'm depending on the house system, the shore cord, to power and supply the charging to the lithiums. So I kind of have to monitor it. Lithiums like to be charged no more than 80%. The best amount to store them at is around 60 to 70%. They like in that little range right there.
Leave them at 60% and they're fine.
Yeah, well, they want to be at 60% to store them. And then a day or two before I leave on a trip, I tell the charger, go for it.
I bought the 1,000 amp shunt from Victron that is on the mobile app.
Yes.
I can pull that thing up and it is stupid amazing how fast it is, and I will concur with what Van said. It matches almost dead on to what the Victron app versus what the Magnum app are telling me in terms of the shunt. I shouldn't say app because our Magnum doesn't have a app. It's all done off of the control head. But I have not turned my generators on and charged since yesterday afternoon. I've used 392 amp hours, 64%. I'm at 13.12 volts. And right now I'm pulling 38 amps of current through the bus. And if I continued on like I am right now, I'd have 8 hours and 48 minutes of...
Isn't that amazing?
It's just amazing. Where last year I was having to run my generator
Yeah.
all of the time. Now, I have had the AquaHot on today. I've been using the stove. I have used the microwave. I have used the coffee pot.
Yep.
And it's still all there.
What do you think? Besides the like and subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know how we messed up or how you might have done something different. We'll see you on the next No Gas. Welcome aboard, and thanks for watching.